Yeah, all's there. Hi. Can we just test this connection just so I'm sure that you can hear me and see me? Can you type where you're watching this from? I know that probably you answered this question like 25 times so far, but let me just check if all's working. Mhm. Yes, it's working. Okay, great. So, good morning, everyone. I'm Bruno Albuquerque. Yes, Rio. Ai, saudade, gente, do Rio. Ah, Maria Inês, que saudade. Nossa. Hi, Abílio from Curitiba. Hello. I'm Bruno Albuquerque from Troika. It's an immense honor to be here with you on a Friday in Friday morning, right? So thank you very much for spending your free time with me, saudade, Inês. Um, I deeply value teachers' free time because it's so rare that we get free time. So it's an immense honor to know that you're spending your free time with me, and I hope that this session is in a way, say, enlightening or interesting or at least fun to watch so that it's fun and positive use of your free time. Okay? So today we're going to talk about this session is entitled. Uh, Gente, minuto, meu cachorro ficou preso. One second, I'll be back. Okay, hi, I'm back. Coisas do home office, né, gente? Uh, today, this session is called A Teacher's Journal. And the idea with this session was going through the stages, the developmental stages of a teacher. We're going to base part of this session into Cambridge's framework of teacher development, and some of my thoughts on the issue. So that the goal is that by the end of the session, you can sort of pinpoint where you are and create perhaps not a career plan, but perhaps look forward to where you want to get and the steps that you need to take so that you get there. And I hope this is useful for you, especially at the beginning of the year. I think that talking about plans and developmental stages and where you want to get, it's something that's important to teachers. So I stumbled across this saying, and this is what got me thinking about this session, because I somewhat, in a way, I disagree with this saying. It says, "He who knows not and knows not he knows not is a fool. Shun him. He who knows not and knows he knows not is simple. Teach him. He who knows and knows not he knows is asleep. Awaken him. And he who knows and knows he knows is wise. Follow him." I think this is due some editing, if I'm allowed. But Rafa said that this is my session, so I sort of can do that, I think. I'd like to rephrase it a bit so that it's not male centric as it is. And I think that there is more wisdom we can extract from this if we try it this way. They who don't know and don't know they don't know, they're novices. We have to nurture these teachers. Uh, they who don't know and know they don't know are the initiates, teachers starting to get more skills and trying to get more professional on the craft. Uh, they who know and don't know they know are the veterans. These are people that we need to stir them so that they don't stay in their comfort zone. And they who know and know they know are the experts. And we need to help them to stay fresh in the profession. I think that the only, well, we're going back to this further on, but so that we can look at this from a more analytical perspective, I think we should use Freeman's framework, the kaza framework. Are you familiar with the framework? Yeah. Um, the kaza framework is a framework that was devised by Freeman in 1989 that describes the pillars of professional development. These being knowledge, attitude, skills, and awareness. So, according to Freeman, in order for one to be to develop professionally, you should have all of these. You should give equal attention to these four pillars. And as you grow and you find what your strengths and what your areas for development are, you can focus on a certain pillars. And what I did was to take a look at Cambridge's development framework for teachers and separate and curate from this framework what I feel would fit these pillars of professional development. So the idea is that we can look at these pillars from an English teacher's professional perspective and gauge to which extent we believe that these pillars are developed, that we have developed. Does that make sense? Can we take a look at this? Yeah. So, first one, knowledge. Um, According to Cambridge, and this is the framework from 2018, uh, a knowledgeable teacher, knowledge that the teacher needs is what they know about language, what they know about students. I think that knowledge you can develop by attending courses, these webinars. You can read books, you can watch videos, you learn through life as well, right? So, Cambridge describes some indicators that I believe are connected to knowledge, such as understanding of language learning concepts. So, how much do you understand of the process of language learning, of language acquisition? Even though I'm not a huge fan of the word acquisition for language, because doesn't it seem that when you talk about language acquisition, doesn't it seem like something that you do once and that's it? Like, okay, you've acquired the language. I believe we should talk about language development so that we don't have this finite view of language learning. Because, all right, you're a C2 speaker of the language, but can you say that you have acquired the language? Like, is it done? Is it finite like that? Not a huge fan of language acquisition, language development, perhaps. Um, so, understanding of language learning concepts, understanding of key principles of teaching, learning, and assessment. So, this is important knowledge, according to Cambridge, that a teacher should have. And if you want to develop in assessment, do take a look at Isabella Villas Boas session on assessment. Fantastic workshop. Um, Knowledge of key terms for describing the language. So language to describe language, right? Also on to attitude. Um, this could totally be a picture of my young sister. I curated these from the Cambridge framework. So, a teacher who a positive attitude, a positive professional attitude of a teacher would be reflecting critically. It would be observing other colleagues and being committed to professional development. So, from this perspective, from this attitude perspective, to which extent are we reflecting critically on what we do? How much of what we do in class is automatized? I believe some level of automatization is important, right? Because if you think, if you have to stop and think about everything you do in class, I feel that teaching might be too mechanical and too technical and too robotic. However, I feel that expert teachers, they have this habit of reflecting critically on what they do in class and before class and after class and outside of the classroom. How often do we observe colleagues? This is definitely an area that I need to develop. Um, I used to observe colleagues when I started teaching, uh, but since I got my groups and started teaching as a full time job, I've had very little time to observe colleagues. I believe I should go back to that. And now that many lessons are online, observing other teachers is very, very easy, right? You can just get a recording of the lesson, and also observing colleagues. So in this craft of mine now of sessions and presentations, observing other lessons, other sessions from the perspective of someone who wants to become a better speaker, a better professional at this. I should definitely focus on that a bit more. And someone who's highly committed to professional development. How much are you involved in these development initiatives? Since you're here in SBS's event on a Friday morning, I believe you're quite committed to professional development, so that's great. But how much are you involved in associations such as Brestiso or IATEFO? How much of an active role do you take in these initiatives is also part of your professional attitude. And here's to say that Cambridge has it in four levels, and the four levels that we're going to look are the ones I called the novices, the initiates, the veterans, and the expert. So you can look at all of these descriptors and try to see them in shades of gray. So you can be on the first, second, third, or fourth shade, depending on how much you reflect critically or how much you observe other colleagues and how much you're committed to professional development. And I think that if you analyze these and you see that, for example, I never observe other colleagues. So this is clearly an attitude. You can call it an opportunity, right? So something that I could definitely do more is observing other colleagues so that you can move on to the darker shades of gray towards being a veteran or an expert teacher. Skills are those it's what you do, it's what you're able to do. So this picture of someone working with pottery is the idea of it's manual, it's physical. Of course it involves mental processes, right? Identifying what you have to do, and but I see them as more physical acts. So for example, um, to which extent can you plan and deliver lessons with an understanding of learners' needs and using a range of teaching techniques? Do we tend to use the same teaching techniques that we used last year and the year before that and 5 years ago? And that's particularly an issue, I believe, because If we're using techniques, the exact same techniques we used 5 years ago today, the context has changed, right? So now we're teaching more online or aulas concomitantes, right? So students in class and students at home. So the set of skills has to be the set of skills has to be different, and learners' needs have changed as well, right? So now we have students who are slowly going back to class, who are slowly socializing with their friends now that they're getting their vaccine shots. They're coming back to being children again in a way, right? So being able to do what children do. So their needs shift through the years, and they clearly depend on students' identities and individual needs. To what extent can you design a range of effective tests and use individualized assessment procedures to support and promote this learning? Again, if you want to read more on assessment, Isabella has a fantastic book on that with Vini, is getting into ELT assessment, if I'm not mistaken. Great book. And to which extent you provide accurate examples of language points taught at A1 to C2 levels. So Cambridge divides this as in A1, A2 for the newcomer, for the new teacher, the novice, and then A1, A2, and B1, and then A2, A1, B1, and B2, and for the expert teacher, A1 to C2. So where do you see yourself in this scale? Can you provide examples and accurate examples of language points from A1 to B2? There is some room for development so that you can teach C1 and C2s. And you can answer most learner questions. Of course, this does not mean that you're answering all of learners' questions without reference to materials, but to which extent you're able to answer these questions while checking like a grammar sometimes or a lexical book or a dictionary sometimes, because according to Cambridge, proficient teachers, so teachers on the expert end of the continuum, they're able to answer most learners' questions with meaningful research in reference materials. I don't know to which point I agree with this. I think that not being able to answer all of learners' questions is part of life. But since Cambridge writes it as most learner questions, I think that's all right. Awareness is how much aware you are of what's going on in your classroom. Can you and expert teachers, they can do this with these. How easy is it for you to realize that your students did not understand or are not following the class? How easy is it for you to realize that a student has some emotional issue perhaps that could be addressed? How aware are you of how your colleagues see you professionally? How aware are you of how your students see you professionally, and maybe their families see you professionally? How aware are you of your strengths and weaknesses, and where you can develop, where you can aim at focusing your work? So do I need, and this is sort of the aim of this lesson, of this session today, is raising awareness of the pillars of professional development and trying to help you identify which aspects of the kaza framework connected with the Cambridge framework of teacher development you can focus on for the time being, right? Like sort of New Year's resolution kind of thing. So in awareness, um, an expert teacher is highly aware of their own strengths and weaknesses, and they actively support the development of other teachers. And this is one thing. The Cambridge framework has this criteria of actively supporting other teachers, the development of other teachers on the last two stages of the framework. So, as if only veteran and expert, and this is not the terms that Cambridge uses, but only the veteran and expert teachers could help others develop. I disagree with this entirely. I think it's a view that uh, the only people who can teach you something or help you develop are the experts. And I think this is not a very Freyan perspective, is it? Of can't we learn from people that have just started teaching? I think we can. I think these people, and I'm going to show you where my standpoint on this. I believe that young teachers they have qualities that, at least for me, I have lost throughout the years. Yes, Katja, pure work. Um, I don't. I don't feel that it's only the experts and the veterans who can teach other people, right? Teachers from any kind of teachers. Students do that. Yes, definitely. And we get students to do that, right? So we get beginner students to talk in pairs, working groups, because we know that they can learn a lot together, right? So I don't like this perspective of only veterans and experts being able to teach things. Um, for example, one of my first workshops a bunch of years ago was entitled "Creative Tasks for Creative Classes." They were not tasks; they were activities. But I found later afterwards that those are not tasks, but they were activities that I created that I found fun, that I found engaging, and I self entitled them as creative because I think they were. And I know that the teachers who attended this workshop could go home with a couple of activities to use with their students on the next day. So I think I helped people develop. So my point here is that I don't think you need anyone's green light to help others develop. You have a lot to learn. We have a lot to learn, but we also have a lot to teach. So um, get your workshop ready, or your webinar, or your Instagram post, because we need that, I think. So back to okay, Jurandir says, yes, actually, every expert has been a beginner once, totally. Everyone starts from some point to reach a level of excellence. But even getting there, learning is still on process. Yes, and we should collaborate all the time, learning with one another. Gente, Jurandir acaba de resumir toda a minha sessão. A gente vai estar encerrando por agora. But yes, Juranji, that's exactly it. That's the feeling I get. We're all beginners once. I believe that every level of professional, and this is what we're talking about now. We grow by sharing, Bruno. Yes, I believe that all levels of professional development have lots to teach all of the other levels. So we're going to take a look at novice teachers for now. Uh, they who don't know and don't know who they know. Ugh, sorry. They who don't know and don't know they don't know are the novices. And this is the moment that when you get to class, it's the first day of class, first class ever. You're a young teacher, you have no gut feeling uh, because you don't have enough guts to have gut feeling, but you get this uh, intuition of something that you do, and you're a very creative person, because since you have no or very very little instruction on how to do what we do, you gotta be creative. You gotta invent stuff to fill in class time. And these are the people who are usually the most fun in class, because I remember when I was a novice, and then this is why I created this workshop, 5 created activities for creative classes. It was because I saw my work as a teacher, because I didn't have instruction on it. I saw my work as a teacher as being twofold. It has to be engaging and fun to students, and it has to get students talking. If it is fun and engaging, students are likely to talk. And if they're talking, I think they're learning. That was my philosophy. That was my line of thought. So I would uh, use videos in class with no idea of pre, while, and post, and sub skills of watching and listening and predicting and gist and detail and specific, no idea. But I would find a very engaging video that would get students talking about the topic of the lesson. And I believe my students learned and developed some. Yeah. Um, I've taught horrible classes, like horrible classes. The first class I taught was. Gente, vergonha, eu falo. The first class I taught, I was substituting for my director of studies, amazing guy, Henry Correa. I was substituting for his class in his school, and I brought Under Pressure to teenagers so that we could talk about depression. And that was my first class ever. Tem cabimento? Um, Horrible class. Very irresponsible of me. Hi, Ricardo. Welcome. Um, but I loved the song, and the song was fun, right? So I think these are the characteristics of a novice teacher, right? Everything is intuition. Everything will be has to be creative and fun, because we don't know otherwise, right? We don't have the techniques. And then um, and we get to this point that it's a lot of the naive, yes, Katja, and it's that Dunning-Kruger effect, right? Because you don't know that you don't know, you're very confident. It's as if you know it all. It's as if you knew it all, right? And then you're very confident, and you create fun activities and creative moments in class that get students talking and running around the classroom, because that's fun. And then you realize that you don't know, because you participated in some training. Maybe you realize, and this came to me when I was talking to a friend, and he was talking about all of these books on how to teach English, right? Especially how to teach English, like Harmer's book, and talking about language acquisition, language learning, and pronunciation and phonemic script. And I was like, wow, isn't this just like art, that artsy, that you get creative and you get students talking? Is that I didn't even know there was like science behind it, right? And then this is the moment that you crash, is that when you realize that you know nothing. Jones, no, this is the moment you go like, wow, there's so much to learn. And I call this the initiate. The initiate teacher has this sense of wonder of, wow, I've just found out how much there is to learn, how much there is to do. You have, though, a small repertoire that you have created in your first year of teaching, right? So you have some fun activities that that you like using, some techniques, some classroom techniques that you like using. Um, you're very curious because you have just found out of how much there is to learn in language learning and language teaching. But there's also this feeling insecure because now you know that you don't know. And even though you have a small repertoire, this teacher is the teacher who will be thinking about uh, their activities and wondering if they're actually working or if they're just fun. Because I think this is the point that I realized that yes, being fun and engaging is important, but there's more to it in terms of language teaching, right? So this is when you start questioning if your fun, engaging activities are also effective from a linguistic point of view. They who know and don't know they know are the veterans, and we need to stir them. The veterans are those that are technical, they know what they're doing. They have a larger repertoire of activities and classroom techniques, and this idea of automatization. So they know what they're doing. They have a repertoire, and most of this is automatized. They do it without thinking about it. So these are teachers who can look at the course book 10 minutes before the class and walk into the class with a lesson in their heads. They know what they're doing. It's automatized. They have this repertoire of activities that work, but they might get stuck in a rut because of too much automatization and because of doing the same thing too much. And then we go to the unfortunate, now cliche sentence: do you have 20 years of experience, or do you have 1 year of experience repeated 20 times? Right. So when I say that the veterans, they should be stirred, it's because um, it's very easy to get to a point that you have automatized most of classroom procedures, that you don't stop to think about them anymore, and that you somewhat, and very unfortunately, you stop learning. And these teachers, they have to be shaken, they have to be stirred. And I think one of the best characteristics of a veteran is hemolish. Veteran teachers, they can deal with most of the classroom situations. They have this sagacidade, this jeito of doing stuff that uh, that initiates and novice teachers don't have. Initiate teachers, novice and initiate teachers, they have this butterfly, these butterflies in their stomach that, oh my God, what if this happens, and what if that happens? What am I going to do? Veterans, they don't. It's like, it's fine. If something, yes, Katja, the idea of flow, right? So if this happens and I have to throw my plan out the window, I'll be fine because I know what I'm doing. And even though they don't know that they know, to a point of declarative knowledge, of being able to talk about and explain the reasons behind what they're doing, they know how to do it. They have this feeling that, okay, I should go here, I should go there. One of my biggest fears when I started teaching was getting to the end of my lesson plan with still 30 minutes to go on the clock. And this was so scary. I remember having, and I swear to God, I remember having nightmares in which I would be teaching. the lesson plan would be over in like 20 minutes, and I would still have 40 minutes to go. And I had nothing to do. And students would go wild, and the coordination would come, and the director of the school would come, and the parents would come and go like, Bruno, you're a fraud. What's going on in this? I swear to God. Today, I believe I've grown to have a larger repertoire and some sort of flow in this remolejo that if things don't go according to plan, it's actually because they are going according to plan, right? Um, a very high level of anxiety, Juranji. So, because we know, because veteran teachers know that things usually don't go according to plan, that it is part of the plan, things not going exactly according to the plan. Does that make sense? Um, so this remolejo is important, and we get to the expert teacher, they who know and know that they know. They're the experts, but we have to rejuvenate them because the experts, sometimes, in my point of view, they are very technical. They know exactly what they're doing, and why they're doing it. They have a very professional attitude when they're dealing with students, when they're dealing with parents, when they're dealing with families, when they're dealing with colleagues and directors and coordinators. Experts, they don't go to, and this is an issue of attitude, right? Uh, Expert teachers, they respect their students to the utmost level. You will never see expert teachers going into the teacher's room and ranting about students and speaking ill of their students because they're professionals. Uh, Experts, they are scrutinizers. They pay attention to every little thing in their classes, and they know how to justify all of their decisions. So differently from the veteran who has automatized everything and who is a very, very good teacher, but is not necessarily aware of why they're doing what they're doing. uh, I see veteran teachers on an intermediate plateau, as in, I can do this, but it's sort of settled. And this is why I believe veteran teachers have to be stirred. Like, okay, you can teach, but why do you do it that way? How aware are you of the things you're doing in class and the impact that this technique or that this on the spot correction or that this feedback has on your students? So the bottom line, in my opinion, for expert teachers is awareness. The expert teacher is aware of what's going on. They're aware of their weaknesses, of their strengths, and they can zero in on their weaknesses and develop this weakness so it's not a weakness anymore. They know what they're doing, they know why they're doing it, and they can explain why they're doing the way they're doing. However, they can be very technical because of this high level of knowledge and understanding. They can be very picky and sometimes mechanical in the way that they stage the lesson. And then, well, so what? Right? What do we do with this? I believe that in the same way that we look at methods and approaches, and we take what's best about each method and approach and use it to create our pedagogy, our principled eclecticism. I think that in the same way we do that, we should look at the developmental stages and try perhaps get what each of these stages has to offer. So the teacher is someone who is fun and engaging. And mind you, I think even though it's a lexical difference, but fun and not funny. right? Not every teacher is funny, and you don't have to be funny, right? If it's not your style of teaching, if you don't see yourself as a funny person, you don't have to act funny if you're not funny. But the lessons, in my opinion, they have to be fun. They have to be engaging. There is no such thing as extrinsic motivation. If extrinsic motivation was actually a thing, we would all be eating salad and going to the gym 6 times a week and running 5 kilometers every day, because this is what Instagram sells us. Extrinsic motivation, not a thing. Cortella says that motivação é uma porta que se abre pelo lado de dentro. So there's nothing from the outside world that will get you moving. Motivation is a motive for action. And I believe that the best motive for action that we can give our students is showing them that they can have a good time in class, not that they want to come to class because in 6 years time they will be fluent in the language, because that's very sad. That's a very far-fetched goal. They will get there, but it's 6 years in the future. I think that the best classes are those that you look forward to them because of the class itself, because you want to be there. So I believe the teacher has to be fun. The teacher has to be not has to. It's a good idea that the teacher be creative. Something that we can borrow from the novice teacher. This teacher has a sense of wonder and it's curious about finding things that they don't know. This teacher has a very professional attitude. They are aware of their flaws and of their strengths, and they can focus on these weaknesses so that they can develop them. They have a sense of automatization because it is important to automatize things so that you can be more natural in class. So one thing that, in my opinion, differs the expert from the teacher is, and here, as you can see, I put the teacher not as another, like a fifth level of development, but something outside this grayscale. Um, Not automatizing processes might make lessons feel very mechanical. And if you want to be fun, if you want to be creative, some level of automatization is important so that you can deal with classroom situations in a more fluid and, as Katja was saying, in a more with flow. And I think it's paramount that the teacher keeps the remolejo, because being able to deal with such unplanned situations, it's part of every teacher's life. So my goal here with this session is that we see what we can get from each of these stages of development, and through the kaza framework, using the Cambridge framework of teacher development, try to find where we need to work on to become the teacher that we want to be. And this on the board, on the screen right now, is the teacher that I want to be. I want to be a teacher who's fun, who's creative, who has this sense of wonder and is curious to find about new things, has this professional attitude, is aware, has automatized some procedures, but keeps the remolejo, because I think that's very important. And to wrap this up, I'd like to say that, well, we should stay foolish, don't lose the sense of wonder, stay hungry, be curious, know your craft, know what you're doing and why you're doing it. Know that you don't know, and not that you don't know anything, because we do, but know that we cannot know one thing as a whole in its entirety. And most important of all, nurture others, because I believe that nurturing others is the only way that we can move forward. Teachers need teachers. We live in a very, very difficult country for educators. And I think that the only way forward is if we nurture and support each other. And I hope I have supported and nurtured you a little bit today. Thank you for coming. Thank you, everyone, for your time. And I'll see you around.